Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am Justin, the mindologist.
Oh my god. I'm Nico. Literal cancer.
Whoa.
And I'm Dan, the audiologist.
Put all those together, and what do you get? It's Annihilation. Directed by Alex Garland, it stars Natalie Portman as Lena, Jennifer Jason Leigh as Ventress, Dr. Ventress, I'm sorry, Tessa Thompson as Josie Radek, Tuva Novotny as Cassie Shepard, and Gina Rodriguez as Anya Thorensen. So we open with Lena, a former soldier and current biologist whose husband, Kane, disappeared a year ago. It starts with her being interrogated about her trip into a mysterious region known as the Shimmer. So she begins her story from the start, which,
Like you do.
as I've heard, is a very good place to begin. So she's in her house, still kind of grieving for her husband who disappeared over a year ago. She's kind of repainting their bedroom now when he makes a mysterious return. His name is Kane. He literally walks in on her repainting the bedroom. They have a kind of awkward conversation, but then he collapses, so she calls for an ambulance. Their ambulance is mysteriously stopped by some mysterious black vehicles, and Lena and Kane are then airlifted to, as you would guess, a mysterious government base, otherwise known as Area X. So, Nico, what happens at Area X?
I just want to say for fervent listeners to the pod, we often do like, oh yeah, if they go into Area X or if they, are fighting like Demon X, this place is literally called Area X, just to be clear. But what they're at the base, Lena is greeted by Dr. Ventress, a psychologist, not the character from the Star Wars canon. She explains that Kane is dying of multiple organ failure, and she also tells her about the Shimmer. 3 years ago, a meteor came down on a lighthouse on a coastline near a swamp. This is on the northern west coast of the United States, I believe. Yeah?
I don't know. They don't have swamps up there, do they?
I think it's in the southeast.
Yeah, I think it's in the south.
Florida-ish, I think.
No.
I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. They don't really specify.
Yeah, well, either way, the Shimmer is constantly growing and it'll soon reach into cities, and if not stopped, could encompass the whole world. And to make matters worse, nobody sent into the Shimmer has ever made it out, with the exception of Kane.
All right. So, Dan, what happens after that?
So now Lena meets 3 other women, Anya, Josie, and Cassie, and she discovers that they, alongside Dr. Ventress, are going on a trip into the Shimmer. Previous military attempts have failed, so they are planning on sending a team of scientists. Lena convinces Ventress to let her accompany them, and the 5 enter the Shimmer.
Now, upon entering the Shimmer, the group immediately become disoriented and they suffer from memory loss. They all kind of meet back up again, and they realize after looking at their food stores that roughly 4 days have gone by and no one can really remember where they are. They do orient themselves, however, using the sun, and they head in the direction of the coastline, which they can then follow to the lighthouse. And this is where things get weird. We see them on their journey as they come across mutated and distorted flora and fauna, including a giant alligator with shark-like teeth and some extremely biodiverse flowers, where you literally have flowers that have nothing in common growing from the same branch. So clearly something weird is happening here, but Nico, how weird does it get?
Pretty damn! The group finds a base that the previous expedition had used where they were just pulling up when they were coming into the Shimmer. They find an SD card with video of Kane and his crew cutting open a fellow soldier to see his innards moving around like the snake in Lost Temple and Sonic Adventure. And just like snakes to those of you who had a sad childhood and didn't play that game. That night, Cassie is later killed by, you guessed it, a mutated bear. The group begin to lose their minds, which is an effect of the Shimmer. And Josie theorizes that the Shimmer doesn't just distort light and radio signals, but it also distorts DNA, and it may be having an effect on them. Lena confirms this by testing her blood and looking at it under a microscope, and they continue on. Anya then discovers that Lena was Kane's wife, and she attacks the group, but is killed by the bear. Ventress goes to the lighthouse. Lena follows, and Josie? Well, Josie just turns into a tree.
Quite literally.
Quite literally.
Quite fucking literally, yes.
So, Dan, what happens to Lena after she decides to leave?
So after losing the other members of the crew, Lena arrives at the coastline and makes her way towards the lighthouse. The area around her is very desolate, yet also strangely beautiful. Trees have been crystallized everywhere all over the beach, and Lena eventually makes her way to the lighthouse. When she enters the lighthouse, she sees a camera in the center of the room alongside a scorched skeleton on the wall. She plays the video file on the camera, and she sees Kane in the video, and he gives a little philosophical monologue, then says, "Find Lena." He then kills himself with a phosphorus grenade, and a clone of Kane walks into the frame. Lena realizes that the Kane who returned back to her at the beginning was actually his doppelganger, aka his Dopp. And she ventures into the lighthouse's basement. When she gets to the basement, she sees Ventress fused with the alien life that has crashed there, at which point she actually kind of vomits fireworks and is incinerated in a fountain
It's
of
rad
light.
as hell.
It's pretty fucking cool.
It does look pretty cool.
Which is then followed by an incredible scene, which I'll talk about, of just like trance-like stuff.
So I'm going to put it in plebeian words. We will go back over it, but this is just for the summary's sake. So the alien presence, it starts off as and this is going to be difficult to describe because it really is something you have to see. But the alien presence starts off as kind of almost like an orb with the insides radiating light. And it morphs into a metallic silhouette of Lena. It mirrors her every move, and when they touch, it even begins to copy her appearance. After a while and, several failed attempts, Lena tricks it into blowing itself up. She hands it a grenade, kind of pulls the pin, and then runs. As she escapes, as the alien life form is burning, the Shimmer too begins to burn. We see the trees start to burn and everything else, and Lena makes her way out of the Shimmer. She escapes. We now cut back to the interrogation. The people at Area X allow Lena to reunite with Kane. They're both still, or I should say Kane's Dopp, I'm sorry, his doppelganger.
I swear to God.
They're both still in isolation, heavily guarded. And she comes up to him and he tells her that he doesn't think he's the real Kane, and they embrace. And again, I should note that the military people tell Lena that the Shimmer it's like gone. They were able to send a team to the lighthouse and everything. But when Kane's Dopp and Lena embrace, the camera focuses in on their eyes to reveal that they both still have the Shimmer inside them. So, there's a lot to break down in this movie. So let's get to it. Visuals, Nico. Tell us how fucking pretty this movie is.
Oh my God, they're so fucking good. This is one of the best looking films in the past 10 years by a long shot. And I know that that's going to sound like high praise considering the catalog of films we've already talked about on this podcast, such as Color Out of Space, Midsummer. This is something just on a design level is so, so beautiful. We've got throughout the entire movie, there's a dynamic color palette that weaves in and out along with these visual distortions over everything that really just make you question what's going on in the most intriguing way possible.
Very true. And I want to give a special shout out to the designs of the things that they find. So we see the flowers I talked about where you just have some really unique looking, because none of these are natural. All of these were created by either, the people who, well, obviously they're created by the people who made them, right? But these are not natural things. These are things that they had to come up with. It's insane. And the alligator I mentioned before that had, shark-like teeth, or we also have the bear, which I'm sure we'll talk about more later, but the bear itself is just honestly fucking terrifying.
Yeah. Hey,
We both
great
said it because
minds.
it's true. So Dan, let's go ahead now and talk a little bit about the audio. Particularly, I want you to tell me about the audio just in general, but then tell me about the audio towards the end of the movie.
So in general, I like the audio. The music I thought was really interesting. I thought a lot of the music was a very interesting choice for the film because a lot of it has sort of like almost ambient guitar that feels more like an exploration kind of montage score, almost more so
Right.
than like a horror film.
I absolutely loved that.
And I did too. And it was really cool because they were also kind of like changed it a little bit here and there, different variations on it to make it a little bit more foreboding and things at some points. But I thought it was really cool and it fit the.
You know what it reminds me of? The Last of Us.
That too. I was gonna say the fucking Hideo Kojima game.
Oh, Death Stranding?
Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, is this a Strand type movie?
Is this a strand? Oh, shit.
So that was like the music and a lot of it, but then the fucking end, that whole scene with the doppelganger following her and everything was incredible. And it starts when Ventress sort of explodes into this like light kind of thing and becomes the orb that Justin mentioned. You get this like dark electronic synth kind of sounds, and that just sound really like badass and also like kind of scary.
Fucking huge.
Yeah, that kind of music is going through. But then there's also a good 15 or 20 minutes where not a single word is spoken in the movie. And the doppelganger is replicating everything that Natalie Portman's character does. And it's like choreographed, like a dance almost. And it's so expressive, and you know exactly what's happening, and you feel the emotion, but not a single word is said. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Very, very, very true. So let's go ahead now and start our dissection. And we got some dissecting to do, lads. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the opening scene. Nico, why don't you go ahead and walk us through that, and particularly its impact and importance on the rest of the movie?
Certainly. I think the opening scene really does say a lot about the themes of the film, particularly with the juxtaposition we have with things that are quite literally alien and things that are much more normal and I guess domestic almost. We see the meteor come crashing down, and then we have a pretty immediate transition into Lena talking to her class back when she was a professor before all this at, I think was it Rutgers?
Johns Hopkins, I think.
Johns Hopkins? Okay, well, wherever Johns Hopkins is, that's where that part took place, I guess.
Maryland.
We really just shit the bed there, lads, eh? Happens. No, but we see Lena narrate and teach a lesson on the reproduction life cycle of a cell, and in particular tell her class how they are going to be studying the development of cancer cells. Now, we get a bunch in this opening part of the movie. We've got the alien situation here with the meteor, something coming literally in from the outside. We've got an immediate transition, thus linking that to the themes of DNA, cancer, things growing like a plague almost. That's not the best word, but you get what I mean. It's just something that really, really nails the opening in a way that sets up the themes really well. It sets up foreshadowing quite a bit, and it gives just a very quick and easy backstory to what's going on in the movie.
Agreed. Particularly the scenes where Lena is talking to her class about how everything came from one cell that then divided and it divided and divided. And we actually, believe it or not, see that again where a drop of her blood, Lena's blood, is taken into the orb. That drop then divides and multiplies and replicates. That's what gives life to the silhouette. Another kind of thing that is discussed is obviously cancer is discussed a lot in this movie. Dr. Ventress has cancer. That is one of the reasons why she goes on this. It's not quite a suicide mission, but no one's come back in 3 years. So the people who go on this trip, they almost, in some ways, feel like they have nothing to lose. So that is one thing. And also, they talk about cancer kind of being an unchecked multiplication of cells within the body. Similarly, the Shimmer itself is an unchecked thing that just keeps growing on the Earth.
Unchecked radiation, I guess. Something.
I guess, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's just a growing zone where the natural laws no longer apply. Now, I did mention one part of that ending scene, which was the droplet of blood. But Dan, you know a lot about this ending scene, so I want to ask, what is your interpretation of the end of this movie? What do you think happens as, Lena gets the phosphorus grenade off on the doppelganger and it kind of catches on fire. It drags itself through the basement of the lighthouse. That catches fire. The trees catch fire. The Shimmer disappears. The whole embrace between Lena and Kane's Dopp. I mean, what's going on there?
So one of the themes of this movie that I think we might dive into a little bit later is sort of self-destruction, and that's a major point in the film that they even talk about in the film. And I think when she sets off the phosphorus grenade, it starts burning the Dopp, and it just kind of walks
We're
around.
really doing this,
and,
huh?
and it starts like almost purposely burning different things and burning its own home and its own place down. And I think that without getting too much into it yet, I think that kind of symbolizes humans' nature of self-destruction. And then we kind of skip scene, brief time skip to where Lena is out and she goes and, embraces with Kane. And we pretty much know that Kane is not real Kane anymore. But it's sort of ambiguous whether Lena is or not. Again, at the end, we do see sort of a little shimmer kind of thing in her eye as well as Kane's. I personally think that she is the real Lena, but just in the same way that the shimmer changes DNA and everything,
Yeah.
I think that she is also changed. So whereas I think she is still her, she's not quite the same her that went into it at the end.
It's kind of like the old logic puzzle where you have a ship and you replace, board by board, bit by bit. How much do you change until it's not your original ship anymore? Kind of same idea they explore, really.
Good point, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So, Nico, you also ascribe to the theory that, for all intents and purposes, that is on some technical level the same person that went in, being Lena, into the Shimmer, but she's changed upon her return to the real world.
Yeah, irrevocably so.
First off, I agree with both of you, and I raise another point. So Kane, the real Kane, when he was speaking on the camera, he starts and he says, "Was I you? Were you me?" And his kind of his self, I guess his almost conception of being is shattered by the doppelganger. You know what I mean? Seeing it, interacting with it, and even your thoughts can merge with things in the Shimmer. And this is evidenced by Cassie. Her screaming for help is actually merged with the bear to create a bear that screams for help.
In her voice.
Yeah, as it murders people. So all these things get refracted, reflected, corrupted, and duplicated. And
there's an Aesop Rock verse in there somewhere.
I do think that and this is the final point to me. That's the real Lena. That's the doppelganger of Kane. But they're both as real as one another.
Yeah.
At this point in time.
Pretty much.
Fucking poetic, Justin. Well done.
Thank you. Now, I want to ask you, Nico, what's the significance of showing that they both have the Shimmer? Does this mean they can still spread it, as evidenced by the fact that when Lena took a drink of water, the water in the glass behaved kind of weirdly? I don't know if you guys picked up on that. The water in the glass.
I saw that.
I'm so good. I don't know if you're good like me, but I noticed it.
You are the underwater philosopher, so it is your specialty.
Immediately,
Yeah,
my mind,
you have
my
a
mind went to that.
predisposition for this shit.
So go ahead. What's the significance, Nico?
I wasn't really a big fan of the ending because it implied that in my mind, it made it look like it was implying there to be a sequel. And I thought that kind of just made it look a little bit cheaper in just terms of the narrative structure, which is, you see that literally all the time, but it just didn't have as much of a satisfying role to me, just because I feel like they could have made it look more significant than that, if that makes sense.
Now go ahead and hold that, because I'll give my two cents and then I want Dan to give $1. So from my take, I kind of feel like it wasn't necessarily setting up for a sequel so much as showing that it had already spread. From the time something left the Shimmer, it was too late. It can't be stopped. And it's my interpretation that and again, I don't know about anything in the future. I only know what I've seen in this movie. But as Lena and Kane interact with things, like even that water, it's too late. They gave her water to drink. It's too late. Something is going to go wrong. it's
I
going
did
to
like
spread.
the scene a lot more the second time I watched it, I will say. I just remember it just kind of killed the momentum to me, which obviously is the end of the movie.
I was
You
gonna say
want
the
that.
end probably killed the momentum too.
Yeah. I mean, shut up. But like the way that I felt watching it, instead of coming to like a natural progression, it was just like a crash. Just like, oh fuck.
Dan, how do you feel about it?
So I didn't really think about it as a plot device, more so as a thematic device.
Oh,
I didn't really think as far ahead as like, oh, what will happen once, now and spreading it and whatever. To me, it was mostly just showing that kind of like what we talked about, that they are not themselves anymore. And
Yeah.
and that even Lena, who I think is real Lena, is still not fully real Lena. She has been changed.
so I guess in keeping with the theme of talking about themes,
Oh.
Nico, one plot point of this movie is Lena's affair. So while her husband is, taking care of business I believe he's a Green Beret.
I don't know.
I just
yeah.
I just guessed. I could be wrong, but I think he is. In any case, so I'm gonna say it. She's getting dicked down by a coworker.
Yeah.
So, and later on, Dr. Ventress says she talks about the tendency of humans towards self-destruction. And she specifically references like ruining a perfectly good marriage, which indicates that on some level, Cain must have told her. Now, is that tendency towards self-destruction, i.e. having an affair, replicated in any other point in the movie? What larger message does that send?
We see that, I think, the most in the group's dynamic, particularly with Anya's character, with the attention to the group dynamic with the scene where she just turns on everyone after finding out about Cain and Lena's history together. I think that just entire scene really is emblematic of that theme.
Dan, anything else you might have picked up on, and if you want to shed any light on the affair?
I think the affair is sort of the reason and backdrop of the whole self-destruction, which I think is the major theme throughout the whole movie, and different ways that we cope with things, with events and shit like that. You've got Cain, who we assume knows about the affair, and he just sort of dives into more and more reckless stuff. So like he sort of volunteers, we guess, for this mission, knowing that there's a good chance he's never going to come back. The other people, the other team members, the main characters, Justin mentioned before, don't really have too much to live for. They all have gone through some tough shit, and the way that they die is kind of related to their
Burdens they bear.
exactly, yeah. And then even when Lena is fighting or doing the thing with the doppelganger, there's a point where the doppelganger like rushes her and she tries to escape and goes to a door, but the doppelganger pushes her up against the door and basically smothers her against the door. And that doppelganger is her. So it's literally her smothering herself. And it's a self-destruction thing there. I think that the shimmer in general is sort of a metaphor for self-destruction. And then at the end, when we see the shimmer in the eyes, to me that kind of symbolizes, hey, we made it out of this, but after going through a traumatic event or something similar to an affair or whatever it may have been, we're no longer the same. Like, yes, we are still here, but this event, this thing has changed our lives forever, and we're not the same people anymore.
I like that reading of it much better.
I'm gonna throw a Justin-sized wrench
Oh.
into this here.
Oh, sweet Christ.
So there's one thing that they very, very, very briefly touch on in the movie, which is because they speak on the cancer, but they also speak on the process of autophagy, which is your body killing off cells that are no longer good for it. Because people have cancerous cells in them all the time. But your body, you have things in your body that'll get rid of it. So I thought, an interesting way to look at it was, I think the shimmer is a pretty clear metaphor for a cancerous growth. I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
pretty clear.
It spreads
cancer
like a
mutates
tumor.
things. Yeah, literally. Now, I almost view that destruction as kind of like an autophagic process, really.
How do you feel about it being portrayed as so beautiful, though?
So I think that is, to me, a kind of, and I will admit this is a little bit of my nihilist side coming out, but there is somewhat of a beauty of the destruction of the old and the rebirth of the new. Now, the way that and this is, I guess, one way where the Shimmer differs is that in us humans, cancer only it brings death. But in the Shimmer, it reorganizes things and brings them together. And we'll touch on it in just a little bit, but even people inside the Shimmer, they're mentally, they all kind of come together a little bit. And to me, that is almost a kind of a creation of new life. We're seeing new forms of life. We see biodiversity, and there is, in a way, almost a reverse of the growth. We all came from one, which then split to create everything. And here we have everything coming back together as one to then split and become new things again. So I thought all that was really cool. And that's why it was so beautiful, because it was also unfiltered, untouched life. So that's what I thought about it. Now, I want to ask you guys. So obviously we're doing this movie as part of our series, during Women's History Month. But even if it wasn't, I would still want to fucking review this movie because this movie's awesome. IMO.
The movie fucking whips.
But this is one of the few kind of sci-fi horror movies I've seen with the main characters, the team that goes out and does everything, 100% women. Is there any significance behind that? Is it just a coincidence, Nico, or do coincidences not exist?
No, there's no coincidences there. Absolutely not. I think they were. I think to nail it down to more of just an essentialist take of, well, women are the people who reproduce, and having that be linked with the just the nature of cellular reproduction. I don't know if that's a little too on the nose.
I was going to say, you've hit the nail on the head, you staked the vampire, and you've stroked the slot, sir. That's exactly what I was thinking about
That's exactly what you were thinking about?
That's exactly
that
what
slot?
I was. No. Come on. You can't. What are you talking about? I was, in my mind, as you said, the ones who reproduce, the ones who give life. This whole thing is about life and everything else. And I thought that to me was one of the major points. But also, they talked about how previous military expeditions had failed. Now, I'm sure there were maybe some women who went previously into the Shimmer.
Yeah.
But there is kind of on a very generalized sense and scale, the concept of, ooh, me attack with hammer and rock to see if this works. Versus, because they talked about there were two theories. Theory A was that there was something killing people in the Shimmer, in which case a team of a whole bunch of macho men, send in the Expendables. Like, that's what you would do.
Yeah.
But if it was a scenario where maybe it's like more psychological, in that case, sending in a team of women might actually, under the lead of a psychologist, might be
and an explicitly
approach.
not like militarized force.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're all
Because-
scientists too.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are all scientists, so there's that aspect, but there's also the aspect of women just on a very generalized sense having better control of their emotional intelligence. Women have on average have higher
Absolutely.
emotional intelligence than men.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a generalized fact. So that was another thing I think went into it. Dan, anything on your perspective from that?
Not really.
All right. It's always good. It's always good to get that input.
I mean, to be honest, I didn't make the connection of sort of the reproduction side of it and, giving life and everything. That makes sense. I just didn't really think about it. It just seemed like
That's fucking fair, man.
5 dope women going in, doing their thing. And another thing I liked about it was it seemed very natural too.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It was just, yo, we're 5 women who are scientists. We're going in. Like, I don't think ever once. I don't think the film was ever like,
Girl
hey, we're
power.
women.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Like it
Yeah,
was
Never.
just,
And
yeah.
can I fucking say, well fucking done? Like
Yes.
this is exactly how the fuck I want to see it, because you said it exactly right. It was so fucking organic. There was like, it literally was, there's no reason not to. They wanted to send in a team of scientists and they happened to be all women. And you want to know what? If it was a team of all men, I probably wouldn't even have thought twice. So
Because we've seen that movie before.
Yeah.
yeah, we have.
Representation
And so-
matters also, which just, again, you'll love to see it.
I'm sure there's
Yeah.
people out there who are like, oh, why are there so many women? Fuck them. Like it was, like I said, like it was, it didn't feel
Fucking
that way. Like,
incels.
whatever.
See, you know what? If at the start of the movie, if it had started with a quote saying like, a man can't do it, but maybe a woman could. And like throughout the movie, there was just like random shit scattered where it was like,
I would be
think-
so pissed off. Are you kidding me?
I think we need to
fucking
we sent in-
ingenuine.
or if there was like a general there who's like, ladies, listen, we've applied some manpower, but we think we need some girl power on this one. Like, if it was like that, I would have been like, boo. But no, this was fucking perfect. And you want to know what's, I will say, as a marketing thing, I think that as a marketing thing, they maybe should have played up that particular aspect. Even if the movie didn't, from a marketing perspective, they might have netted more cash in the end if they played that up. But before we talk about that, Dan, tattoos, what you know about them?
So I want more. But really, there's
Same.
there's
say
this
Abby.
tattoo that appears in the film, the Ouroboros tattoo. Two snakes eating each other, or a snake eating itself.
One snake
rather.
eating itself.
Yeah, in a figure eight pattern.
Yeah, it's eating
And
its tail.
It's interesting because I didn't quite understand the significance. I understood what the significance of the tattoo meant, but I didn't understand it, like how it got there, because the characters don't have this tattoo. And then throughout the movie, they just get the tattoo. It just like appears on them, on their arm. I didn't quite understand why that happened. Do you have any insight on that?
So I think it might have been Anya's. It might have been Anya's. I feel like one of them had it. I think it was maybe Anya. If not, then I don't know. Maybe there was like a soldier or something who was there in the Shimmer who had it. But regardless, I think it's due to the refraction of the Shimmer. I think it refracts and molds different things together.
Agreed.
I've heard that it, because even the stuff with, the shark and the crocodile, how did the crocodile get like the shark?
Right.
You can't have like a shark fuck a crocodile.
I think it must be just by proximity. Literally, like you were saying earlier, the crew becomes more like each other as they go on. And I think by nature of, again, just the Shimmer again, I think there is literally because they're in the Shimmer and close together, maybe.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
So now I want to get to the what would you do? So it's going to be kind of a wild one.
Oh.
I have
before
no
that-
idea what to expect.
So let's say that this is actually pretty tame. I lied. So let's say that the three of us, somehow we drew the short straw. We got to go into the Shimmer. So we follow the same path, and we're on, for purposes of this one, we're on a team of, it doesn't really matter if it's, guys or girls. We're just on a team with a couple other people.
Sure.
So let's say now we get to the part where Nico, a giant fucking crocodile grabs your bag. Are you going to try to get rid of the bag, or will you just scream for help?
I would let go of the bag and fucking shoot it.
I see.
Because this supposes we have the same, outfit that
Yeah.
they had, yeah? Yeah, I would just, let go and just, fucking unload. I'm not trying to flex or be like, big macho man, but, if we're going in there with guns, I'm gonna fucking use it. Are you kidding?
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and shift it a little bit. Dan, it's nighttime and you and I are having a philosophical chat about the universe. One of our crew members is dragged away by a mutated bear. Would you pursue it, or would you just say they're dead? Fuck it.
I would probably do what they did, actually, which is pursue it for like 5 steps and then be like, all right, it's a lost cause.
Whoa!
I mean, they literally were just like...
How to tell someone's worked in retail in 10 words or less.
Yeah. I mean, they started to kind of chase it and see where it went, and then it's also in the middle of the night in a fucking forest. That's a bad look to traipse through there. But yeah, I would not go after it.
Now, I want to talk real quickly about sanity points. Between the three of
Oh,
us,
shit.
who is most likely to wind up like Josie? Because Josie kind of lost it and was like, fuck it, I'm just going to become one with the Shimmer, and turned into a tree.
Yeah.
Who's the tree? Is it you, Dan? Is it you, Nico? Or is it me, Justin? 1, 2, 3. It's
I
Nico.
don't know.
I pick Nico. Dan, who do you pick?
Okay, sure.
I could
see that.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
agree.
could actually
agree.
see that very much.
Yeah.
Explain, though.
So my point is this. I think if we had to have like sanity points and then whoever would, kind of break, personally, I think the person between the three of us who has the most like sanity points would be Dan.
Yeah.
It would be Dan, and then I would be like second, and then third would be you, Nico.
Oh, shit.
So I'm putting you at the tree. Like
Fuck.
you're gonna turn to the tree.
I would rather go by tree than the other ways, to be frank.
Fair. I feel like you're a Dr. Ventress, Justin.
You think I'm Ventress?
Yeah.
So actually, I changed my mind for you, Nico. I was gonna say, oh well, go ahead. You say your point first, Dan.
I was just gonna say I think you are because she had a goal and sort of like relentlessly pursued it, and she got there. Didn't go so well for her, but
Okay.
she got there.
So it's funny in terms of characters, Dan. I actually kind of see you, and this is kind of messed up. I see you like Cassie, and I don't mean that you get eat by the bear, but Cassie.
I mean,
Cassie wasn't around long enough to lose her mind.
No, it's not something you say I mean to.
eh,
Well, no,
what are you
you've
gonna
almost
do?
been eaten by a fucking bear?
what are you gonna do? It's a bear that uses human voice to lure you in. Like, what are you gonna do?
Oh, that specific bear. I thought you meant in real life. Christ,
Oh, no.
Dan.
Oh no! Don't talk about the mutant. If it was a regular beer, I would box that shit.
I thought
Are you
we
kidding
were
me?
just like, Dan has had multiple bear eating experiences. Like, what the
What?
fuck?
No, bro. I would crane kick the shit out of that bear if it
Would
tried to
crane
fuck with
kick?
Dan.
Okay, Chun-Li.
Listen, okay? That's important to know. But let me ask you guys this real quick. What would our individual mental breaks be? Like in terms of in the Shimmer? Like what would you do? I'm gonna say for me personally, and you guys can rate it, I think I would pull an Anya. I would just go nuts. I'd be like, yo, look, I think y'all are about to backstab
Your
me and
bitch
betray
and
me.
the click you claim.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably go for the lighthouse. I wouldn't be no punk. I'd go for the lighthouse, but yeah. Dan, what do you think how would you snap in the Shimmer?
Fuck, I don't know, man.
I feel like you would just at one point not be able to take my dumb fucking jokes.
I feel like I'd probably get eaten by something. I would go off exploring somewhere,
Oh no.
and then I would probably get eaten because I would just like
Okay.
explore all the beautiful scenery and shit because I love like the outdoors and whatnot.
Yeah.
And something
Yeah.
would just eat me.
You might get eaten by like a
A
Fly trap.
3-headed wolf.
Yeah, that's
Oh, damn.
badass, actually.
That
is
would
kinda
be
badass.
kind of
That's a way
bad.
to go.
Yo.
That's
Yeah.
a way to go. That's a way to go. So Nico, what would your break be?
I think the way I would go is I would get a song stuck in my head and I would just
Oh, no.
literally not be able to.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah, I think that's what would fucking happen. I would just have cascadas every time we touch just become my life, and I would become this ethereal form that every time I touched something, I would just get this kind of feeling.
Note for the audience, we're not obsessed with that song. We listened to it before the pod. Okay. We all just didn't randomly start thinking about
It
every time we
has been
touched.
stuck in my head the entire time, though. I wasn't kidding.
So lastly, if you could pick one of the three of us to confront the doppelganger, which of the three of us would fare best against it? Would it be me for my wit? Would it be you, Nico, for your intelligence? Or would it be you, Dan, for your common sense?
I think it's Dan.
I think it's
I
Dan.
think it's me.
Yeah, okay. We're all in agreement. If there, because if it was me, I would die because I would probably be like trying to box, and then it would like box me back, bro.
But you'd be like,
It would-
box me, Dopp. Come on, Dopp, box me.
Would you try to dap up your Dopp?
Yeah, I
You trying to
would.
dap me
Yeah.
up?
Okay.
Yeah.
Once I realized that it's not trying to kill me, I would be dumb. I'd be like, yo, hey, like I was start like,
Well, you know, one thing I just
Start
realized,
dancing around.
Kane became his friend. Or maybe not
Yo,
friend,
you could
friend,
film
but
some
like,
sick music videos that way.
oh, that's true.
That'd be fucking rad as hell.
Yeah, but you could just fucking mirror yourself and like fucking
you could do
video
that.
software to do that.
Well, yeah, okay, but you,
you don't
can't
have to
live
get an
that.
alien doppelganger.
If you
Although I
don't
think that's-
have, if you don't make your own store bought, it's fine.
But no. So what were you saying about the friend though?
I think Kane sort of he accepted that his doppelganger was his doppelganger because I mean at the final film that Lena plays and we see him explode himself like that pause that he was talking to his doppelganger and
Yeah.
he told his doppelganger find Lena like you would tell that if I was on my deathbed I would be like oh, tell my mom this or something like I would say somebody or tell a friend or somebody that I trust to do that. You know, I would entrust them. So that
What a
that was
reveal
interesting.
too for the character there.
Yeah.
Yes. I will say, I think it was that, again, he just got absorbed. And this is one of the elements I think of, you know, once again, cosmic horror pervades all. I think that's one of the elements where he snapped. He saw something that he just couldn't take. And so
Well, that and I feel like he sort of the self-destruction thing come back again. I feel like he couldn't stand his own life anymore and sort of the affair his wife had and everything. He just didn't want to be in his own life anymore. So he just ended it and had his doppelganger to sort of carry on for him.
Right. Agreed. So I want to go ahead now and kind of shift gears a little bit. So this movie actually didn't do so hot, you know, in the box office.
Didn't it make 43 million?
Yeah, I think it had a budget of up to, as I was reading, 55 million, and it only made like 43, which is not what you want to see. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's sitting at an 88% from critics, but a 66% from the audience.
Mm-hmm.
First off, Dan, I'm going to ask you because you're above us, really. What would be a reason for the disconnect between the general masses and the
us
critics on this one?
pedestrian fucking filth.
Is this just too highbrow?
I wouldn't quite consider it highbrow. There's a lot to unpack, obviously, by this episode. And I think that a lot of times audiences don't initially think that far ahead or don't dive that deep into it. Whereas
Are you just dunking on the audiences right now? You're like,
Yep.
y'all some dumb motherfuckers.
yeah. I mean, you know, it's a critic's job to sort of analyze things. And it's interesting because I feel like we see almost the opposite in a lot of the films that we've reviewed, where the audience liked it and the critics didn't, or at least in some of the
Right.
films I'm thinking of, for I think the same
Certainly.
reason that maybe it was an enjoyable movie to watch, but there wasn't a whole lot of substance. So the critics didn't really like
Right,
it. So I think
right,
this is sort of the reverse of that.
So, given what we know, again, with that 88% from critics, 66% from the audience, where would you rank it? Dan, what would you give it?
I'm going to give this one a 94. No, fuck that, 96. 96.
Oh.
I love this movie. This movie is just my shit. My favorite thing, we may have talked about this sometime, in cosmic horror is exploring the unknown and discovering new shit, which is a lot of what this movie is about. You know, we see new life forms, new plants, and just new stuff. And then there's so much to unpack. And honestly, I had a good time even just like after finishing the movie. Spent like 45 minutes just reading about it and different people's opinions and reviews and explanations and whatnot. And I actually enjoyed reading it and not like what happened? I need to read this, you know? So this was my shit. And that whole trance-like scene with the doppelganger and everything, man, when I watched it, it was like 2:00 in the morning. And that 10-minute trance scene, I was literally in a trance watching it because the music and the visuals were so incredible. So I really fuck with this movie, 96.
Nico, where would you put this?
I am going to put this at a 93. This is another example of just how talking about these flicks with you all is a really great way to self-reflect and evaluate and just learn more about how we feel. And my opinion of this movie has gone nothing but up over the course of the last however long this has gone on. I really dig it for all the reasons that Dan just listed.
Ironically, I also give this a 93. And I was trying to find this quote. I couldn't find it, so I'll just butcher it from my memory. But there's a part when she's being interrogated, Lena is talking to the lead interrogator, who's actually played by he's in Doctor Strange too. Oh shit, his name fucking escapes me. He goes, "Well, was it like horrifying or was it something else?" And she goes, "No, it was beautiful too." And that's how I feel about this movie.
Benedict Wong.
Yes.
Yes.
I think this movie is literally some of the best the genre has to offer. With everything Dan said, it's fucking beautiful. And it has everything. Now, I believe I also gave His House a 93 as well. And I think it's important to clarify that different movies I like for different reasons. You know, like there's different things to like in both.
Dead ass.
And I personally think that this movie has a message, not like the message in His House. That's a very different, very real world message.
Yeah.
But this has a lot of different metaphors. This has a lot of different things going on. And I just fucking loved it. I give it a 93. Now, there's not even a point to me asking this. Recommend this one to a friend?
Yep.
Yep. Golden seal of approval. I say yes.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%.
It gets the golden seal of approval, just stamped it.
Nice.
All right. Any last words before we bring this one to a cease?
Bro, that fucking bear.
The bear
Holy
is
shit, that was
terrifying.
terrifying.
And I will say to the listeners, this one ran a little long and there's so much more we could have said, so
Yeah.
much more we could have talked about. But in the interest of keeping this one manageable, thank you so much for listening. If you happen to find yourself in the Shimmer, you're fucked. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
please take care of yourselves and everyone around you. Hopefully this movie has a message. Go see it first off if you haven't. But, you know, there's a lot to talk about unity, where we all come from. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.